Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 Nerds by Nerds hanging out with.
Ted,
Today we help this GM have chaos magic run rampant in his game.
jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So the GM 911 will be in the description below as always. So Michael has a question for us. He wants to know how to do kind of like random effects, chaos storms, that kind of thing. But at the same time, he's just not happy with like a lot of the charts that are out there, and he just doesn't want to just use a bunch of random charts.
Well, we'll throw in there, if you have a GM 911, you can send those over to us at nerdarchy@gmail.com. We also take any viewer suggestions.
So I think step one for Michael is figuring out what he is looking to get out of chaos magic, chaos storms, and how he wants them to affect his world.
So there's a number of things that can be done when you're looking to have a world where randomness is kind of taken over. You have to figure out, number one, on a whole, how is the world affected by this type of thing? In our world, we have chaos storms, and it creates certain things, certain effects, and there's a group that chases these storms, and they profit by being on the cusp of these storms, and sometimes delving into the heart of it. Now, that's just one organization or one group that does things. But overall, if you have craziness can happen at any point in time, are there organizations that attempt to thwart it, to put it down? Are there as a whole, is the world more chaotic in alignment, or does it stand up to be more lawful as a combat because of this? So that's just world building stuff that you need to look at. When you get into the actual heart of your question of how do you handle the kind of game, if you're wanting to do this kind of stuff, he already says he doesn't want to do, oh, I'm just going to every once in a while roll randomly on the wild magic table. That could get tedious because all of a sudden, bad things could be happening to the party that's beyond your control. That can be kind of crazy. What you can do is you can have ideas or things that you would like to have happen that the players don't have any control over. He talked about having warp rifts and that kind of stuff. So, all right, you want to have a combat encounter. The party's in the middle of something. You know what? Rift opens up, combat. There's no spot checks, perception checks. There's no checking to see whether the party was aware of a monster. Rift opens, out come the monsters. People start getting attacked.
Yeah, he's got to. You really need to define what these mean to you. What is a warp rift? Well, does that just mean random teleportation that kind of happens, or random gates that kind of happen? Things can go through. You can go through. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know where you're going. So that could be like the randomness there. There could be fixed warp gate, warp what's he calling them?
Warp rifts.
Warp rifts. Some could be fixed, some could be temporary. Some could only appear at certain times. So you could do those variations. And then the chaos storms, you kind of have to decide what happens when a chaos storm comes through. We had to decide that, right? And one of the things we decided is sometimes it just completely changes the landscape, and they're permanent changes. It could be a temporary change. It could be it actually takes it and moves it someplace else. So there's all these weird things that could happen, and that's just one way. So we're not really even doing, make a bunch of random effects and charts, but you look to those places for inspiration, and there might actually be spots where that does happen, where you could decide, you know what, any spellcaster casting a spell in this area, they're considered a wild mage, and maybe it works a little bit different if you actually are a wild mage. You could have part of that chaos may be a place where it actually dampens or nullifies magic.
Now, the other thing is when you have chaos, sometimes, call me crazy, sometimes chaos is orderly. But as the DM, you have 100% control over what happens in your game. Even when you have something random that happens. So, all right, tonight, I don't want there to be any chaotic effects. So you know what? There's not. You can run a normal session and have people on edge of, oh my God, we've been gaming for 3 hours. Nothing bad has happened. the shit's gonna hit the fan real soon. What's gonna happen? And you get through the whole session, and it's normal, and your players are gonna be really freaked out because then next session they're like, all right, nothing happened last session.
Right, your casters could come in almost like dust storms and like dissipate just before it gets to the players and leave like the swath of changed things or monsters or nothing, right? Because it is going towards getting them on edge and like, okay, they don't know what's going to happen, so it's like a false alarm. Also it becomes, you can literally just use this as a catch-all reason as the GM to pretty much put anything in your game at any time.
Yeah, as I said, you're in control here, so it can be whatever you want. You want a fireball to go off for no reason. Well, that doesn't make much sense, but if everybody is into this crazy world, go for it. If there's chaos magic that's floating around, one of your players is down and you're not interested in killing him, well, have a heal spell affect him. You can manipulate battlefields with all impunity because that's the world that you're playing in. Now, I would be careful about doing this. It's like, oh, well, the good guys are winning. It's too easy. Lightning bolt, firestorm. This would get, kind of tedious.
And perhaps dickish.
But it's a way of, or it begs the question of like, is this the kind of thing that you're looking for? I use the chaos storms in my world or in our world to have things happen that wouldn't necessarily have normally happened. I wanted the players to go and investigate something, on another plane, so they kind of, got caught up in a chaos storm, and it took them somewhere else. They explored a dungeon that wasn't on our plane, and then they got out and made it back to the regular world, without too many problems. And yay, I got to do something that was different. They got to actually fight a dragon, which hadn't been a regular thing in our world. So
Yeah, part of it really for Michael is going to be kind of like defining his own rules for this and building a structure to work within. Now, so even in this chaos, there is some order, and and that order is determining how it affects the world, how it comes to be, when it comes to be, and those kind of questions, and then maybe defining this a little bit with your players, so that everyone's on board, so that you're not doing effects at times, and they're not going to like that happening. Sometimes you can do it for them, sometimes you can do it against them, but you should. It sounds like you already have buy-in, but I would just kind of like double check and like these are my thoughts. Here's some ideas of how I might use things, and see if the players are still into it.
absolutely, if you're going to have bad stuff happen and good stuff happen, I think players are probably going to remain on board. But if it's all going to be, hey, this world sucks and you live in it, and bad stuff is just going to continually happen, I think players would probably be like, yeah, never mind. Can we just do a regular game?
Yeah, and also like they might really want random. Like they might want you to roll dice, or they might want to be the ones to roll the dice to see what happens sometimes. And if that is the case, if that's what they're actually interested in, because it's just you might want to get a clarification, then incorporate it. Figure it out. And sometimes it is going to suck for them. Maybe sometimes like, hey, there's a 10% chance that any given combat where magic's being thrown around, and like maybe this is one of your rules, right? Anytime magic or magical effects are being thrown around, there's a 10% chance or a 5% chance that a chaos effect will happen because magic becomes like these lightning rods to these chaos storms or warp rifts or whatever, right? And so maybe you do have a table. It's like, okay, it's a warp rift is going to happen on such and such numbers, or a chaos storm or a chaos effect, right? And each one of them might mean something different, but you should define that, and they become so you could put together kind of like your own tables, and then you can also decide, okay, like there might be another role where this effect is either like for the players, against the players, or it's actually neutral. It affects everyone the same. And you can do things like that, and the players just never know what's going to happen.
So if you wanted to do the totally random, be like, all right, anytime you roll a 1 or a 20, crit fail, crit success, roll in the wild magic table. If it's a 20, like roll a d4 besides the wild magic and pick something that's good within that swing. And if you roll a 1, roll that d4 and pick something that's bad within that swing, and that would heighten or bring up or bring down those negatives.
Well, there's
or
also
positives.
like the trick section in the DMG, which would make all they would all make great random effects. And then like I don't know, if you Google, you'll probably get like a billion wild magic tables that you could pick and choose from.
There are plenty of options out there.
You know, maybe you just use a different one every night, and like even the players don't know which one you're going to draw from.
That's a good idea.
So maybe you don't know which one you're going to draw from. You randomly pick one. Who knows?
A die roll to determine. Oh no!
A die roll to determine which die to roll. Now, you guys let us know in the comments below what you think. Would you do this in your game? Have you done this game? You have any suggestions for Michael? While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over on nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.